pieces, my body, head, and soul. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. Find myself and find out glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign. Giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Queen podcast, where we will explore the female characters in science fiction television, movies, book, art, anywhere there's a female sci-fi character, that's where we will be. Joining me today is Navia. And
Hi.
Annie will be coming later if she's able to. As you guys know, she's out saving lives. And we have a very special guest tonight, author and cosplayer Karin Nordin.
Yay.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
So, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, actually. It's 2:00 in the morning where I am, and I am surprised that I am so awake right now, but it's probably because I'm just so excited to be here.
No, thank you so much for making that sacrifice. I know that that is very difficult and challenging. I don't know that I will be able to be up at 2:00 in the morning. That's my podcast. It's
Well, it is a few hours past my normal bedtime, but I figured, you know what, tomorrow's Saturday, I can sleep through that.
But let's hop right in. Navia, we've got an awesome author here. I know I've been reading her book, and I've been reading on audio books, Where Ravens Roost. I'm having a great time with this book.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Navia, you want to go first? Start off?
Yeah, I'd say I absolutely love the book. I had so much fun trying to figure out like the mystery involved. I actually took notes. I was sitting here taking notes because I was like, I'm gonna solve this mystery before she tells me. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I didn't solve the mystery. It was a complete shocker. I was not expecting the plot twist at all. I was shocked. And I'm so excited that I was shocked because I love murder mysteries. And I was like, I should be able to get this. Did not get it at all. So kudos to you for writing a brilliant plot twist.
I am so glad you really enjoyed it. And writing plot twists is really hard. I mean, that is an art form that many people have perfected. And Where Ravens Roost was my first book, so wasn't quite there, but I think I'm getting better at it. So when you read the new book, I hope you let me know what you thought, because that one literally has a last page plot twist.
That's shocking because I absolutely love the Where Ravens Roost, and I was shocked, and I thought it was a super well written book.
Thank you.
I'm one of those readers that it takes me about 80 to 100 pages to really get into a book, but with your page, on page 10, I was like, I'm here, I'm sold, let's go.
Yes, agreed.
So you did a great job, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, usually I like to judge a book after its first or second chapter. Like, okay, am I really going to continue this book? It relies on what happens if I can get past the first two chapters, right?
Yeah.
I was into this after like the third page, I think. Like I'm doing the audiobook, right? And it's fantastic because I can do things while I'm listening to the book. And the next thing I realized, he's going chapter 4. I'm going,
I'm hooked.
I did not go to chapter 4.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I think that's so fantastic to hear because, you know, the Where Ravens Roost is definitely a slow burn mystery thriller.
No, it's not at all. I disagree.
Okay, because that's what everybody tells me. Everybody's like, that one's slow burn. So like when I wrote my second one, I was like, all right, I got to pick up the pace here. And then people were like, it's a little bit faster than Where Ravens Roost, but it's still a slow burn. So when I wrote my newest one, I was like, all right, first page, we're just going to like hit it right out of the gate here.
Who are these people? I need to track them down because I completely disagree.
No, we're going to have a podcast just with these people and put them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, it's official. This book here, Where Ravens Roost, is a blast from the first
Yeah.
line.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Oh
you.
my God, it's fantastic read, well written. I don't want to give any details because
not
if you
spoiling
haven't
anything.
read it, you need
Yeah.
to read it. It's in audiobooks,
Yeah.
it's in hard copy. Get the book. It is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
But Karen, what inspired this story and these characters?
Ooh, that's a really rough one. So I actually was writing science fiction and Western short stories. I was doing a master's in creative writing, and that's what I was writing. And I was going to be finished with a book of short stories that were going to be Western science fiction inspired, kind of Firefly-esque. And going into my final semester, somebody very close to me passed away. And when I lost that person, I was like, I can't write these other stories anymore because the mood I was in was just gone. And
Mhm.
so I just kind of fell into like a darker place. And that's where I came up with the story for Where Ravens Roost. And the main character's, situation with his father was loosely based on my grandfather, who I lost to Alzheimer's. For those of you who don't know the book, Where Ravens Roost is about a police detective who travels back home to the north of Sweden because his father, with Alzheimer's, claims to have witnessed a murder, and he has to figure out whether that actually happened or if he just doesn't remember.
And that's the thing with autism is that
Or
there are moments of
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Sorry,
Alzheimer's.
thank
Yeah, you're
you,
good.
thank you. Wow, there's moments of lucidity
Yeah.
where things are perfectly clear and they're telling you things that are actually fact. But because of the loss in memory and what their mind is going through, sometimes it can change so
Yeah.
quickly from one moment to the next that it's really hard to believe. Well,
Yeah.
is this the truth or is that the truth or is that imagination? Is that it can be very challenging.
Yeah. And actually a
Yeah.
lot of the conversations I wrote in the book from the father's point of view are actual conversations that I was part of or
Oh
that my
wow.
mother was part of with my grandfather. So some of those conversations are actually taken verbatim from real life. But
Wow.
obviously the thriller aspect, the murder, none of that is true.
Yeah.
Um, but
Probably a good thing.
yeah, definitely a good
Yeah.
thing. But the main character basically came from, I was like kind of in a dark place and I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
gotta let out these emotions. And that's where he came from. The funny thing about the book, and since this is women inspired characters here, is that when the book came out, the reviewers said, we want more of the Esme character, the female
Yes,
character
I
in the
love
book.
her.
They're like, she was by far the favorite character of all the people who read the book.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote the second book, I had to put her up there as, equal partnership with the protagonist. So she has a much larger role in the second one.
Good, because I love her. Oh,
Yes.
I was going to ask you about writing female characters versus writing male characters. Is there a huge difference?
I think at the core, there isn't too much of a huge difference because you're starting off with just, the basic emotions of just being a human and the experiences of being a human. But for me, writing women characters is a little bit more challenging because I have to kind of dig deeper into the relationship side of things because I feel like women as people, they have relationships that are a little bit different than a lot of male relationships, and the relationships have multiple layers. And so when I sit down to write a female character, I'm always thinking to myself, okay, what is the deeper layer of this relationship that she has with this person, but what is the superficial layer, and then how much emotion does she let others see her experience through this relationship. And I always try to build up all of my books on some kind of single relationship and see how that affects a story instead of coming up with a plot first. So it's always really important to me to kind of look at characters that way. And I think with female characters, you really have to know all the different levels of and the subtleties that come with the relationships with others.
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I feel like the women characters in this book were super realistic because a lot of women I know are just fed up with the guy in their life. they're so tired of doing the emotional labor, which all of these Esme, Sarah, even Hannah, like she was stuck doing the emotional labor for all of the men in their life, and it was just so accurate. And I think I was laughing at that. I was like, this is so close to like real life. I found it really funny.
Yeah. Well, Esme continues to do emotional labor
Yes.
into the
Oh,
second
God.
book.
Yes.
But she's
That
there with the
is so
snarky
true.
comments to let him know,
Yes.
like, I'm doing
Yeah.
this for you, but you should be doing it for
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really felt with her character, with Esme's character, that I can understand her, and I can almost relate to her. The way you created her, she comes alive. She really truly does, and that is not something that happens in every book. The book can be fantastic, but doesn't always bring characters to life to a point where you feel that they're real. I remember when I was reading, I love trilogies. And I was reading, I didn't even know they were going to come out with the movies at the time, The Hunger Games. And I was
Oh,
reading the
yes.
books, and I would be so enthralled with the characters and how real these characters were that when I went to see the movie, I was like, okay, that was a good pick. Okay, not sure about that one. Like I could see them in my mind's eye. And that I think takes a special skill of writing for
Yeah.
sure. And I think that you capture that in this book very well.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate that because there's a lot of me and Esme. So,
So
which
we
is
like
also-
Esme because
Yeah.
we like you.
Yeah.
It's always kind of a danger. I know always people are always like, oh, do you base, authors are like, oh, do you base your characters on real people? And I try not to base them on anybody in particular, but of course, every character takes something from something I've experienced or from somebody that I know. But yeah, whenever I write a character who's female, who's a protagonist, who's like main center stage, like Esme, or like the main character in my newest book, I always find myself putting a lot more of myself and my own experiences into their responses. And it's kind of difficult to toe the line because it's like, okay, is this what she would really do? Or is this what I would do? And then of course, for entertainment value, you have to like not do what you would do probably, because then there
Now,
wouldn't be a
what was
story.
your inspiration to choose this path of being a writer? Because you're an intelligent woman, well spoken. You can choose any path you wanted to, but you chose this form of art. Why this form?
This is funny, and if anybody in my family is watching, they're gonna laugh because they know exactly why. Because as an author, I can live every career, every world, every lifetime, every person that exists. I can be any of those people, and I can experience their lives. Before I became an author, I was literally trying to do everything. I went to medical school,
Wow.
kind of got bored, left that.
Who gets bored? She says she gets bored. That's
I don't
only
know.
a smart person who says that. I got bored.
I mean, I was a teacher. I worked in the pharmacy. I actually considered trying out for the astronaut program. I mean, I just was
Wow.
doing everything. And I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do everything. I
Right.
wanted to be everything. But unfortunately, you can't just be a different job every single day unless you're an actor or an author. My acting skills aren't that great. So I thought, you know what? I will just put it into writing. And that's what I did.
And who inspired you? What female characters or female writers inspired you when you were going through this journey of considering being a writer?
I mean, I think the biggest female writer that inspired me from like childhood up into adulthood was definitely Anne Rice. I was up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when I was like a teenager reading her books. Ursula K. Le Guin, of course, Margaret Atwood, P.D. James, Mary Shelley. I mean, just so many fantastic women writers, which is funny because I actually think, with the exception of Anne Rice, who I guess I kind of came in too late because I discovered her when I was in high school almost, or end of middle school. Before then, I was really only kind of exposed to a lot of male writers like Stephen King and Dean Koontz, who are fantastic and who have absolutely had an effect on my writing as well.
Yeah.
But that's just, I felt like that was what was being pushed by society. That's what everybody else was reading. And nobody was really talking about female authors like they do today. I feel like nowadays the tables have almost turned a little bit, and there are more female authors that are like really out there and pushing the boundaries. But back then, I didn't really get into a lot of female authors until I was older, and I had teachers who said, "Hey, if you're reading this, you should be reading Mary Shelley. You should be reading Jane Austen. You should also be reading Anne Rice and that kind of thing." So, but those were definitely some of the big ones for me.
Yep. Well, this is why we do our show, to make sure that female scientists, female characters, female writers, and authors and painters get the notice that they need. Because yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I grew up reading mostly male authors. Nothing wrong with them. They're fantastic authors, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that they tend to overshadow these wonderful female writers that are out there. You know.
Yeah, and definitely sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, I feel like right now, especially in the thriller world, for sure, but also the science fiction world is getting there as well. Like, there are just so many fantastic women writers coming out in thrillers and sci-fi right now that it's a great time to be wanting to read women authors.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any women authors that you'd like to shout out? Any new and upcoming ones in sci-fi and thrillers? Other than you, obviously.
Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain freeze on her name. W.A. Simpson.
Okay.
W.A. Simpson. She is writing science fiction right now, and her first 2 books are out, and her third one is coming out soon. And it is fantastic. It's going to be a trilogy, I believe. And the first 2 are fantastic. And you should absolutely check them out. And she has a great social media presence. She is also on TikTok and Instagram, and she makes some great videos. So you have to definitely check her out. She's great. And also for, person of color stories as well. She's just really good. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So she's right now is the one that I would give the big shout out to.
Okay.
Excellent.
We'll definitely have to follow her.
Oh, absolutely. And you said her name again was?
W.A. Simpson.
W.A. Simpson, guys. Let's follow her. Let's check out her books. I love trilogies. I get very excited over them.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to go check that out for sure.
I think her first one's called Tinderbox. So, which is just a cool,
cool title.
I like that. Yeah. Now I want to talk about your second book, Last One Alive. This is what inspired this book? Tell me, how did you get there?
So this one it's a follow-up to Where Ravens Roost, but the way that they're written, you can really read them in either order. But chronologically, it does come it takes place a few months after Where Ravens Roost. It inspired this one. This was my pandemic book. So, and I think if you talk to a lot of authors, everybody has like the one pandemic book, the book that they wrote and then came out during the pandemic, and it was for most people a very difficult time to write because of what was going on in the world. And it's just really hard to stay focused on, this imaginary world, which is also full of drama and horror and terror when the real world is also going through that as well. So I think a lot of my anxieties from the pandemic went into this book. Yeah. The pandemic does not feature in the book because it takes place before that. But you can definitely feel a lot of the tension that was going on in the world happening in this book as well.
What's funny is that I started reading The Last One Alive, and then I go, wait a minute, no, I'm out of order. I need to read the other. And I stopped and began the other one. And now I realize, I could have read that one first.
Yeah. Where Ravens Roost is a little bit more of like a family drama thriller. Mm-hmm. And Last One Alive is definitely a full police procedural. It's,
I like that.
It takes place there are full scenes at the police station with all of the people from the chief down to the new guy on the team. And, and we're chasing serial killers. So it's definitely like your police procedural type story.
I was definitely shocked by the stark difference because I was like, okay, second book, let's dig into Sarah and like Kjeld's father and everything. And then, sorry, is that how you pronounce his name?
Kjeld, yeah.
Kjeld, okay. His father, but no, it's like a full-on like murder mystery, like police procedure. I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready. It's good. It does move a lot faster, like you mentioned before. But I don't know why people keep saying saying the book is slow. It's not. This one's not slow either. Like
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know who you're talking to, but these people have the wrong opinion.
I'm reading the wrong
these
reviews.
characters are so
Yes.
passionate. I don't see
Yeah.
how that can actually happen.
Yeah, exactly. I
You know?
love seeing the evolution of the characters, because even within the first book with the main character, we see such a big evolution. And like, I'm halfway through the second one, so I'm interested in seeing where his character leads to. But
I won't say anything. No spoilers.
No spoilers. No spoilers. You guys gotta get that one too. And it's in audiobook and hard copy. So this one here is fantastic as well. Now I want to talk about this third one.
Yes.
Which is upcoming. It's coming out September 8th. And all you Trekkies out there know that is Star Trek Day. So come on, guys. Treat yourself to something special. Sweet Little Lies.
Yes.
What is the inspiration with that one?
So
without giving too much away.
Okay. This book is definitely inspired by sisterhood. The protagonist is a young woman whose sister was murdered 15 years ago at the same night of the homecoming dance. And the main character's boyfriend at the time was the one who was convicted of the crime. So he is in prison on death row. And we jump forward to 15 years later, and his execution is coming up, and she starts to have doubts that he actually did it.
Oh, wow.
And so she begins to investigate whether the evidence truly pointed to him or not, and what really happened to her sister. And it's a dual timeline, so we get to see scenes from when she was younger and she was in high school and the drama was unfolding to present day, her trying to find out what really happened the night of that dance. And it's a lot about sisterhood. It's a lot of women relationships, because the main character obviously had this very strong bond with her sister. And she also has a very tumultuous relationship with her mother because of the relationship she had with her sister. And there's also a female best friend who's in here. So there's a lot of female relationships. So it's a big jump from my first two books. This one's definitely a full-on psychological thriller. It's told from the main character's point of view. So you're there, you're in her mind. And it is, it was my most difficult one to write, just from like a challenge point of view, because it was such a different change for me. But I really think that relationship wise, and plot twist wise, I think this one is my most successful.
Now I like that storyline. Nadia, don't you kind of envision a movie?
I can with all three of the books,
right? So hello, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Yes. I really want to see where the Ravens roost in a movie or a TV series. I feel like it'd be such a good TV series. Actually, I want a TV series, not a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be my preference as well for those ones. Yes.
Who would you imagine playing Keeled?
Michael Fassbender.
Oh yes,
I was not imagining him.
Perfect. Yes, I 100% agreed. He would be perfect.
I had a lot of people tell me that they thought that Tom Hiddleston could play the character, which I can kind of see, although he seems too nice. I'd have to see him play like an angry role. But I actually wrote a role for Tom Hiddleston in the second book. So
okay.
There's a character that was
I feel like he's not Nordic enough. Like I was imagining like a stereotypical, very Nordic man.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're about sci-fi here, girl.
Yes.
So we need to know. The people need to know. Have you written some sci-fi?
I have.
Talk to us about your sci-fi. Where is it? Where can we find it? What's going on?
So I actually, before I started writing novels, I was writing short stories, and I had 2 science fiction short stories published. The first one was published in this really cool little magazine, which you can find online. It's called Insomnia and Obsession, and I was in volume 4. And my name is a little bit different. First name is the same, but the last name is different. But my story is called Breathe. I got this really great artwork.
Ooh, nice.
But this was a kind of, it's light sci-fi. It's definitely more of kind of like dystopian sci-fi.
Okay.
But it's a short story about futuristic events. takes place in New York, actually.
What?
So good for you.
What?
And then my second one is actually free to read. It's online, and it is called. This is kind of a mouthful. It's called Dr. Dr. Blair's Book on Color Transference. It's a very short story with a very long
Nice.
title, and you can find it online. It's actually was published by the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. So if you type in University of Edinburgh Creative Writing Showcase, you'll find it on there.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so those are the two that I have written, and I am working on some secret projects at the moment.
No one can share this, guys. Go ahead. Tell us all about it. We'll keep it secret.
Right. So I am working on some secret projects that are science fiction, supernatural, and horror-ish in genre. So once my fourth book comes out, which will come out next year, that is also a thriller that might have a little bit of a supernatural edge to it. Then I will be hopefully bringing out some science fiction and horror for you guys.
Now, do you know when your fourth book will be coming out exactly? Or
I do. It will be out. It will be out 2024.
Okay.
September. It'll be the same as this year, actually. It fell that way. September will be the ebook and audiobook, and then the paperback will be out in November.
Okay.
And I don't have a title yet, but it's gonna be a psychological thriller. It's gonna be female character led, and it might have some spooky supernatural undertones. So we shall see.
You're right.
I like that.
There. I feel like because your books have come out back to back.
They have,
right?
Yeah. I have,
crazy.
yeah. I'm with a digital first publisher, so if anybody's interested in publishing, digital first publishers kind of require you to write a little bit quicker than traditional print publishers. Just because people who read ebooks and listen to audiobooks, they do it very quickly, and they want to read the author's next book as soon as they put the other one down. So I try to write as quickly as I can, but.
And you know what? As fast as you've written, it doesn't show that you were rushed. You know how like some writings, they're like, wow, going somewhere? Like, hello, where's the scenery, the story? Give me the environment.
Well, I have a fantastic editor. I have a fantastic editor who, because I am an overwriter, I'm like Tolkien. I would describe trees for 50 pages if they let me, but they won't. So they cut out my, 49 and a half pages of trees, and I get one sentence of trees. Yeah.
So how does the editing process work? Is she editing as you're writing so you can pop this book out in a year, or?
So I write the book usually I write the book within 6 months. And then and then I hand it off to her. She goes through and does the major edits, usually in a month or two, depending on her schedule with her other authors. Then it comes back to me, and then I have like maybe a couple weeks to fix it. Then it goes to another editor, back to another editor, back, and then off to the readers. But it's a pretty fast process. They can turn a book around within between 6 to 8 months sometimes.
Oh my God. Are you writing multiple books at the same time to keep up with demand, or?
A lot of authors are. I haven't figured out yet how to do that. So
okay, fair enough.
Well, that's because you're not just an author, you're a cosplayer.
That's right.
And we need to talk about how awesome your cosplays are. You have some of the most incredible cosplays. I mean, your Jadzia is phenomenal. You guys have to follow her, Jazzercise Loki, on TikTok, and check out her cosplays on there, or on her Instagram, Jazzercise Loki, because she has some of the most amazing cosplays. Not just female characters, but male characters as well. Yeah. And you do it not in a way that is mocking or taking anything away, but truly just honoring the characters that you do, both male and female. You put a lot of time into that. It's amazing. What inspired you to do cosplay?
My mom. So my mom was a seamstress when she was younger. So when I was a kid, I had the best Halloween costumes in town. She made me the most wild costumes. Every year I would just be like, I'd ask for something bigger and more grandiose and more crazy, and she would just be like, oh my goodness, but then of course pull it off in a way that was just unbelievable. And then she taught me how to sew. And unfortunately I don't have a lot of time to sew anymore, so a lot of the cosplays that you're seeing on TikTok are not homemade. I have a few, maybe I'll bring them out, but yeah, she definitely is the one who got me into costumes and cosplay, and yeah.
Now, what's your favorite female and male cosplay that you do? That's something that's you're passionate.
Oh my gosh, that is hard. For the female cosplays, I think, oh man, that's such a hard question. I really do love Jedzia. I love drawing those spots on. That's a lot of fun. I think Jedzia is definitely my favorite female cosplay. And right at the moment, I have to say Captain Pike is my favorite male cosplay at the moment. Although I am
fantastic Pike.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, I'm really proud of my Spock, and I have some great Spock videos coming up soon that I'm excited to share. But Captain Pike is fun because I just love that hair.
You do a really good Spock, and I don't want to like put the two of you on the spot, but I can see some Spock cosplays right along with some Supreme, because Navia does a great Supreme.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just saying, putting it out there.
We should absolutely.
Navia, we have? Let's go to the comments and see if we have any questions for our lovely author before we talk to her about her nom de plume, Karin Nordin. I want to talk about that. So do we have what do we have in our comments tonight?
We have a whole bunch of hellos, but United Federation says, whoop, my favorite TikToker, all on the same podcast. Love that, so thank you.
One of my favorite TikTokers as well.
Yes, agreed.
You are.
Always so supportive. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it. Doesn't look like we have any questions or anything. Everyone just saying hello. So hi to everyone back.
Everybody's just super friendly.
Oh, wonderful. If you guys have questions for her, put them in the comments. We'll come back to them. Absolutely. Absolutely. So talk to us. How did you come? Because Karin Nordin is your author book, your nom de plume. How did you get there?
So I always knew I wanted to use a pen name as an author, and I never thought about what it was going to be. I'm like, they did every author figures this out like when they're 12, and I just left it to the very last minute. And my family is Swedish and Norwegian, so we had a lot of Scandinavian last names, but none of them really were marketable according to my publisher because they were either too hard to spell or too hard to pronounce. And so I just threw a bunch of names at my editor, and she kind of went through the list and talked to the marketing department basically. And these were the ones that popped up that weren't being used by any author at the moment that also sounded good. It was short, it was easy to put on, and actually KN are my real initials as well. So it was easy for me to remember. Easy to sign as well. I told them, I said, I want something that's easy to sign.
Absolutely.
So they came up with this with me together. So that is the one for these books, but it's entirely possible that I will have another one in the future. Stay tuned. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's common that if you go into a different genre, like science fiction, for example, and you're not already a really big name like Stephen King or something, it's common to get another one. So it's possible we might see another one.
Now, when is your next book tours, or do you do book tours?
So I am one of those sad authors whose books came out at the worst time for books tours because of COVID.
Of the pandemic.
Yeah. So I haven't done one yet. However, I will be in Iceland for Iceland Noir this year. So if there's anybody going to that, or I think you can watch some of it online as well. So I'll be on some panels there.
Let us know.
Yeah, so I'll be on some panels there, and I maybe, fingers crossed, will also be in New York City next year for
Yay.
Thriller Fest. That's my plan.
Yay! Absolutely. So, but when you do start doing tours, let us know.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I will.
So that we can let people know where you're going to be and when, and we can stalk you.
That would be fantastic. Stalk me in cosplay, please.
Yes, we're gonna cosplay your characters.
Do it.
Of your book.
I want to see you guys get the bangs, the Esme bangs.
That would be awesome, guys. If we go there to get our book signed as cosplayed,
that's
as
the
one of
one
the characters.
That's like the most humbling thing, I think. Is if I saw somebody who cosplay one of my characters, I would probably freak out. But I have gotten fan art, which really shocked me because I think thriller authors don't get fan art, and I've gotten some people draw Kjeld and Esme together. So I was like, oh. Well, I was like,
so books are so vivid and so well described. I can see how someone who likes to draw and it's artistic and would be okay doing that, coming up with something close to what you're describing. Like it's so vivid. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really fun to see. I was like, I was just so excited because I thought, I'll never get fan art because I'm not a YA author.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not a fantasy author. They get the best fan art. So I was so excited. So if you do fan art out there and you read my books, send it. It's okay. I will love it.
Yes, we are going to take a little commercial break before we go to our next segment with Navia, which is the real female scientist. We'll be right back. That is my good friend Jace, who does all of our graphics. So if you need someone to do graphics for you, for your podcast, for your websites, give him a call for sure. But now we're going to take it away, Navia.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about Dr. Claudia Cejevo Salcedo. She is an Ecuadorian conservation biologist. She has a degree in biology, a master's degree in environmental and plant biology, and a PhD in biology with a graduate certificate in tropical conservation and development. And those are very important because she's currently working on conserving the Andes forest. This forest is located in the Andes Mountain in northwest South America. And this forest is very important because it has one of the world's most biodiverse forests. And these forests are obviously under threat because of deforestation and introduction of exotic species, which is killing a lot of the original plants and animals that inhabited that environment naturally. And one way she's conserving these forests is by creating a seed bank. And these seed banks is where she basically gathers all the seeds from different plants in the forest, and they put it in like some kind of underground vault. So if there's ever a situation in which these plants need to be revived, they can just go in there and grab that plant and replant it. And she's also creating a database of genetic code that will help us know how diverse the forest actually is and save time in discovering new species, and also control illegal traffic, among others. So if they see that plant on the black markets sometime, they can track it down to exactly where these people would have found that species. I don't know why it would be on the black market. I couldn't exactly find the research behind that, but just in case they do. As well as being a big advocate for conservation, she's a super big advocate for women in STEM. She's a coordinator and co-founder of the Ecuadorian Network of Women Scientists, which now has more than 400 scientists as members and organizes across 15 nodes in different parts of the country, including the Galapagos. And currently, she's an associate professor. of biology. And that's a little bit about Dr. Claudia. Unfortunately, there's no real way of supporting her foundation. I was trying to see if there was a way, but you can't. So, but just follow her on social media, which is right there.
Yes, absolutely. She does fantastic work. And we like to highlight and showcase women that are doing fantastic work in science, because we can't have science fiction without real science. We need them. They go hand in hand. Sci-fi has influenced the creation of many things that we have today, but we don't get there without science, right? They go hand in hand. Absolutely.
100%.
But Navia, do you have, or are there any questions for Karin in the comments section, or do you have any questions that we missed yourself for her?
I have a random question. I think this is a good one. I think Karen's gonna love this. So why is Harrison Ford a better actor than Sean Connery?
You know what's really funny about
watch out now.
this is hilarious. So I posted that video today, and another TikToker who follows me, she called me out on it, and she said, she's like, oh, I can't believe you went for violence today. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I Googled the date, and I realized today is Sean Connery's birthday.
Oh no!
No way.
It was a complete accident. I had no idea. No, but I'm a lifelong Harrison Ford fan.
Same here.
I don't know. Actually, I do know. This all comes back to my mom. Harrison Ford movies were the only rated R movies I was allowed to see. If Harrison Ford was in it, then my mom said, if Harrison Ford's in it, then it's okay. And so from a very young age, I was allowed to see these adult movies, adult movies. They're Harrison Ford movies. So I grew up on, all of his early stuff. And so I just always felt like he was the best. And the boys in my high school just didn't like him because all the girls liked Han Solo and they all liked Indiana Jones. And so they just needed a reason to be angry.
I love Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It was the first, I think, and only movie that I watched in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
And they had and that was way back when, right? And they had subtitles in Spanish, but I didn't need to read them.
Yeah.
Because I knew what he was saying.
Well, also, I think, Harrison Ford's movies, they always feature a very strong independent woman as well. And so I think we should showcase that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say all of movies.
Absolutely.
Have a female character, but I don't think they fall into the inspiring.
Yeah.
That's very true.
As much as the leads in the Harrison Ford film. So
yeah.
I'm gonna
they're
give
usually smarter in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies.
Yes.
Exactly. Which really showcase the intelligence of women, right?
Yeah.
We want that.
Yeah. Yes.
We are more than just arm candy, right?
Yeah.
We want to be appreciated for our intelligence.
Yeah. Well, it's actually since you guys are the sci-fi queens, obviously, the female characters in sci-fi is basically kind of what helped me find my confidence as a young person, because when I think back to when I was really young, there are a lot of the female characters that were on TV or in the movies they were either princesses or they were damsels in distress, or they were very one-sided, written by a man who just wasn't going to go deep into her storyline. And it wasn't until you started getting things like, Ripley in Alien, or Sarah Connor in The Terminator, or Scully in the X-Files, where I started Janeway, where I started realizing these are some three-dimensional female characters that I could be like when I grew up, I could be Kira Nerys or, Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica or something.
Yes.
But yeah, these characters that are definitely more, developed, well-rounded, have feelings and emotions and multiple layers. And I didn't have that when I was really young. I don't know. It was really weird, which was funny because I came from a family, I was raised by my mom. I had two sisters. We were a female household, but there wasn't a lot of female characters for us to look up to. You know, my sister went to Buffy. That was like her time. She was like Buffy, but yeah, I definitely like, yeah, those the characters written for sci-fi, the female characters in sci-fi definitely were a more inspiring force for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's characters like Janeway, which are powerful, strong, independent women. It's kind of sad that people always wonder, well, why never she never got a love interest? It's because the actress said no, because it was not going to look good for her as the first female captain to have a love interest. It would take away from her authority, which I think is kind of sad, because she's absolutely right. That's how people were thinking. And I think it's kind of sad that we don't embrace characters like Captain Michael Burnham, who will cry on the bridge. And I think that that's fantastic, because you know what? We are women that have all emotions.
Yeah.
We are happy, we are sad, we are strong. We can cry and command you to go into battle. It's okay. We got this. We have managed more. And I think that more and more characters with more facets are being developed for women.
And Spock
Agreed.
definitely cried more than Michael Burnham.
Yes.
For real, though, right?
Spock cries in every movie and every show. No.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I never understood that. You have issues with her crying, but Pike freezing and not giving an order while the Gorn are attacking.
Yeah.
We don't have an issue with that.
No.
Talk about a PTSD moment
But
for that man, right?
I think it was great that they chose not to give Janeway that love interest, because then they could highlight the other weaknesses that she had.
Absolutely.
And weaknesses of her character, weaknesses of her command, and show how that affected her development and her storyline. And I think that was a much more effective way of showing us who she was as a person than just giving us a love interest.
Yeah. Now, going back to writing female characters, and as a writer yourself, what do you think are the best way to write a female character?
I think you have to give her a very strong goal that she thinks she cannot achieve, but maybe has to prove that she can. Whether she does or not, it's like something that she believes that she doesn't believe she can entirely reach it. And then, of course, you decide whether she does or not. And then I think it's important to give a character a big flaw that counteracts their big goal. And I think particularly for women, to use that flaw in a way that isn't like too tropey, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
And now, even if it is a tropey flaw, it can still be a flaw that is, you know, a traditional feminine
absolutely
flaw, but then, you know, express it in a way that kind of contradicts what the reader would expect.
Yes.
We have a really good question in the comments. Can I
go on ahead.
This is good. I like this.
I was looking at that one.
Yeah, this is how I was like, I read this. I was like, yes.
Navi and I had mind meld before the show. That's why we are one.
Is there an episode of Star Trek you feel you could have written better than what was portrayed on the TV or television?
All of it? No.
No.
That's my girl.
That I could have written better. Yes. I'm blanking on the name. What is the name of the TOS episode where the 4 children are the ones who they see an invisible guy who is like telling them to do something, and they basically end up killing people?
They're kind of like Children of the Corn kind
They
of.
were kind of Children of the Corn, and then at the like there was a scene where like Nurse Chapel keeps giving them ice cream.
Yes, I know which episode you're talking about. I can't think of the name.
I want to say it's Mira.
I think it is.
I don't know if it's Mira, but I feel like I could have written that one better.
Probably so. I think that the storyline of the children was coming from a perspective from someone that may have not spent enough time with children.
Yes. And I think it would have been more effective if it had been actually from the perspective of the children as opposed to the others. Or if the entire episode had been from Nurse Chapel's perspective, that would have also been interesting.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely.
So I'm sure there's probably
Absolutely.
a better answer to that question, but that's the one that jumps out at me right away.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the children shall lead. Is that the title?
Yeah, that might be
That's
it.
it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
right. Because Mira's the one about the girl
Yeah.
that falls in love with Kirk, right? I think.
But who doesn't, right?
That's true.
In every episode.
But she was like 13.
But you know,
Original.
but here we go back to female characters, right?
Yes.
If we judge this TOS series from today's perspective, we can point out like 100 different things that is misogynistic and wrong. But if we remember the era,
Yeah.
we see the power and the strength and authority that these women characters were given, right? Because we can criticize, oh, look at the short dresses, oh, they're sexualizing them. No, it was the sexual revolution, and they were doing it to empower themselves. It was a symbol of empowerment, right? So when we judge these characters and these old shows, we got to remember the time frame that they were written in and the mind of the individuals that were writing it. These are individuals that were our age during the 60s, right? So they're much older. They're coming from the 50s and the 40s, a different time, a different experience. And I think that it really shows how progressive science fiction is.
And there were a few episodes. Like, I know people like to generalize a lot of like the female characters in TOS, and you definitely 100% can. I mean, like the woman with like the silver, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Triskelion woman. Of course, we can judge that. But there was I remember there was that one episode with Yeoman Rand, where they were the assault episode, and I remember the first time seeing that as like a young person and not 100% understanding it, but then later going back to it as an adult and being like, oh, they did portray that very accurately in the way that she responded to what had happened. And when you go back and watch that scene with her, you can see that she really put in a fantastic performance there and really showed a real side of womanhood that a lot of TV was leaving out.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that science fiction has always done, is bringing forward not just great female characters, but topics, social issues, political issues. They bring it to the forefront, right to the front of things. And I mean, let's think about it. Who is the scariest villain for me in all of Star Trek? Is the Borg. And who's in charge of the Borg?
Yeah,
a queen.
The queen.
I'm just saying, be scared. Just saying, be scared. The queen is coming. I mean, she's powerful. She is taking over entire worlds by just connecting all of these individuals and making them one mind. And, I mean, she's powerful, right? This is an incredible character that they built an entire line that has gone from TNG to present Star Trek, with the exception of Strange New World. They haven't encountered the Borg yet, right? But I mean, they really are everywhere, and they develop such an intense character. And she's frightening and she's powerful, but she is intelligent, and I think that it must have been difficult to write her character, to write this Borg queen. As a writer, how difficult do you think it would be to come up with that concept?
You know who I think would be even harder to write, but definitely would be the character that I would want to write into a book would be Kai Wynn.
Oh
yes.
That is a female character that is absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
Because she is absolutely devoted to her truth. And I think that's the most important thing about writing a character, is that the character believes their truth, and you as the writer make sure that they every action they do is based on their truth and what they believe to be the way things should be. And I think
Yeah.
Kai Wynn is the perfect example of that. I mean, that is a fantastic duplicitous
Yes.
character who you hate, but at the same time, you also understand her. And at
Yeah.
sometimes you are on her side. Sometimes you feel for her and you feel like, because you know this is a bad direction, you know this is a downfall of her own making, but at the same time you feel bad for her because she's not on the wrong side, but she is on the wrong side.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I hear
The,
you.
the fact that you can understand her motives is very scary to me because I don't
Yeah.
want to relate to her, but
No,
I'm
yeah.
sitting here going like, oh my god, poor like I win, you know?
Well, and the fact that she can be this strong, powerful, influential
Yeah.
woman and still fall for Ducat's
Yes.
obvious scheme. Well, I mean, it seems obvious.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, is very realistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Now that I think about it, she's definitely harder to write, because she's a real, she's a person. She's
Yeah.
not mechanical. She's
No.
not enhanced. She's a person. She's in charge. She's not just their religious leader, but she is their political leader. And she's managed. And what people need to remember is she comes from this very small, tiny order within the Bajoran religious group to become now not just their religious leader, but their political leader, which had never been done before. This is a pretty powerful individual.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to be turned around by the manipulation of Ducat, that was brilliant. I think that was brilliantly done. And I think that they ended that Kai Wind legacy really brilliantly.
Yeah. And I think the
Absolutely.
great thing for a villain, whether it's male or female, is to offer the potential for salvation. It's there,
Yes.
and then whether they take it or not is
Yeah.
basically the story. Is like, eventually there's going to be an opportunity where they can turn around, change their ways, and then whether they choose it
Yeah.
or not, or whether they're able to or not, is where you can really build a fantastic story and build a fantastic character.
Agreed.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Now, Navia, before we close shop here tonight, do we have any last minute comment questions? Anything that you want to ask or bring up?
Matt did ask if you write any other genres. Maybe we can
Right. Yeah. At the moment, I only have thrillers published traditionally, with the exception of 2 short science fiction stories, which you can find online. But I am working towards some science fiction and horror novels for the future. They are in progress, but they haven't been signed with anybody yet, so we shall see.
Wonderful, wonderful. We want to thank you for
Yes.
being here with us. Unfortunately, our third host, Annie, was not able to join us. As you guys know, she's working 10-hour shifts in the ER. So just, send her some good thoughts. She is exhausted. She's not able to be here. Was hoping she would be able to hop in, but was not able to. But we want to thank you so much for taking up your
Yes.
time to speak to us.
Well, thank
Keep
you
us
so much for having me.
posted.
Oh,
Keep
absolutely.
us posted on your next book. Keep us posted on when you're going to be doing any tours, anything like that. We want to be there supporting you and letting people know.
Yeah.
Our next sci-fi podcast will be September 8th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Mhm.
And we're going to be reviewing the female characters of this movie called Aniara. It is a Swedish film that you can find
Yeah.
out for free on Tubi. Okay? So check it out. It does come with subtitles, so no worries. It is there available for everyone to enjoy, and I look forward to it. And I thank you again so much for being
Yes.
on the show. Is there anything that you want to let us know about, any announcements, Karen, before we move on?
Nothing, except I'm really excited to see Navia's T'Pringa cosplay. So hopefully that goes up soon. And if you are interested in my new book, it comes out September 8th, Star Trek Day. So while you're celebrating Star Trek, you can definitely order this book as well if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Or order it for a thriller lover in your life.
Sweet Little Lies, you can pre-order it now. So check it out.
But don't read the last page first. Like my mom does. Don't do that. Rip the last page out, hide it, read the book, and then read the last page.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight, and we will see you on September 8th.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified when new videos come up. Thank you for watching our show.